CNBC-TV18 and NuSummit present the BFSI 2025 Vision Summit.
The BFSI 2025 Vision Summit brought together industry pioneers, policymakers, and innovators in a unique collaboration to shape the next chapter of India's financial sector. Through discussions on digital transformation, AI, and cybersecurity, the summit aimed to pave the way for a resilient and inclusive future.
Well, in an era of rapid innovation and digital transformation, India's BFSI sector is at the forefront of change. And now, to set the tone for the evening, may I invite Lata Venkatesh, Consulting Editor, CNBC-TV18, for the welcome address.
On behalf of CNBC-TV18 and our joint sponsors, NuSummit, respected bankers, IT wizards, artificial intelligence experts, a very warm welcome to the BFSI Vision Summit 2025. NuSummit, as I think not all of you are aware, is the new avatar of NSE IT, the subsidiary of NSE. For the first 20 years of its existence, NuSummit, the subsidiary of NSE, as NSE IT, was powering literally billions of trades, in minutes. That's the kind of technology they already have. When we got to know about NuSummit, we thought we should collaborate and do what we always do. That is, try and get conversations going on finance and on technology. Now, the vision for this summit itself is precisely that. How are cutting-edge tools going to influence finance? We are standing at the threshold of a new year, so we decided to call it BFSI Vision 2025. With these words, let me welcome all of you once again to this summit. Thank you very much.
With that, we officially kickstart the summit, and I'm welcoming a leader whose vision has been instrumental in driving innovation in the BFSI space. Please welcome on stage Anantharaman Srinivasan, Managing Director and Group CEO of NuSummit, to deliver the opening address.
A very warm welcome on behalf of NuSummit, InvestCorp, and CNBC to this August forum. This genesis for us starts way back in 1999 when NSE IT was incepted. NSE IT in those days, for those of us who probably are not aware, was incepted with the thought of bringing together a convergence of capital markets as a domain and technology as a vector, and infusing that together to render to what is a very, very demanding environment, which is the National Stock Exchange. That played out for us for a good measure of time. So as we just completed 25 years in our previous avatar. And over the years, we also acquired capabilities around cybersecurity. We acquired capabilities on cloud. We organically built out our digital transformation landscape. And today we are in this form and avatar where this event that we have today, which is along with CNBC, where we are introducing this brand new summit, is not just about introducing this brand, but it is also a point in time where we find ourselves at a convergence of digital transformation, cybersecurity, the relevance of innovation, and all of what comes together to make financial services such an interesting space. And when we kind of conceived this brand name, we felt that we want to be backing ourselves, looking at bold aspirations, and scaling to new heights. And there came about the name NuSummit. So on that note, thank you so much. Really appreciate all of you all taking out time and assembling in making this a great launch and a transformation. Thank you so much.
We now have the privilege of hearing from a visionary leader who has significantly shaped the trajectory of India's financial markets. Please join me in welcoming Ashish Chauhan, MD and CEO, National Stock Exchange, on the stage.
It's a BFSI Vision Summit, but also it's the launch of NuSummit. It used to be called NSE IT till now, and now it is NuSummit. So congratulations to the entire team of NuSummit And in some ways, let me tell you, NSE IT, which is NuSummit now, is a very integral part of NSE, has been integral part of NSE. It was the NSE. Whatever NSE achieved, NSE IT and NuSummit had a great role in achieving that. The BFSI Vision Summit is a platform to reflect on the unprecedented opportunities for growth in the sector. The BFSI sector has always been a cornerstone of economic progress in India. The financial services constitute 35% of the Nifty 50 and 29% of the Nifty 500 indices. NSE, along with its peers in the BFSI industry, acts as a formidable channel for capital formation, for savings, for wealth creation, for protection, for job creation, and overall economic and social development. At NSE, we take pride in being at the forefront of enabling financial innovation in India. Established in 92 and started operations in 94, November 3, in equities. NSE was India's first public digital infrastructure. It also ushered in the digital revolution in India. In fact, the entire IT of India started getting known due to NSE being available across India. Within 2 seconds, you could have the response time. BFSI industry is not only broking or stock market related, it also involves insurance, involves banking, it involves pension funds, it involves many other things, and AIFs and venture capital, and private equity, and so on and so forth. But basically, the prowess which the NuSummit has got out of working at NSE is mind-boggling. There are no similar organizations in the world, and that's where I think NuSummit is lucky to have a set of customers within NSE Group and outside that make them a formidable force going forward. With that, thank you very much again to all my ex-colleagues and also future colleagues. Thank you very much.
First up, the first panel of the evening, and it is titled Digital Leap Transforming India's Financial Institutions. I would request Lata to please come back on stage to moderate this session.
Ganesh, is it possible that you all can write a code for someone with a fat finger problem? I mean, is that service also offered?
I think one of the things about India, which we have been very fortunate, is that, and this is not just now, this is something that dawned on me even way back during my IBM days, in that the sheer volumetrics of the country, right? When you think of, we already heard the NSE volumes. I remember State Bank of India, and I'm talking about 7-8 years back, when the integration happened and all the subsidiaries came together. At one point in time, the footprint of the customers was 450 million plus customers. I think the truth of the matter is that not many, even in the developed markets, are able to fathom the volumes that we have and the way that we are able to kind of operate in that scale and fashion. And I think for one, we have been fortunate to be part of that legacy, in that our journey has been part of this very high throughput, low latency kind of an environment that sets us up well for all of what is the core fabric for financial services institutions, if you may.
At Canara HSBC, you all have an OmniGen AI which helps due diligence. Can you tell us something about that?
We have actually recently gone for this OmniGen AI, which we have deployed on the underwriting side. Because what we realized, in an insurance company, underwriting is a very core activity where you judge the customer whether insurable or not. And when we realized that when we are using people, and obviously there's no substitute for people, but then there are certain areas where you want to be accurate, where you want a little bit more precision rather than just someone's memory or someone's way of working. And we have deployed this, which is on AWS platform. And what we have seen is that the technology is giving better outcomes, where the system is able to kind of memorize all the rules, everything, algorithms, all of that is there in the system, and it gives an output which is then validated by medical underwriters.
I tell you, there's a bot in our company called Zara. She does 10% of our renewal premium collections, essentially because data suggests that there are 14% of our customer bases that don't like to speak to human beings because their worry is at the end of the call, they will end up doing an upsell or a cross-sell. So if you want to ensure you segment your customers well in bots today, we've reached that stage where 10% of the entire renewal premium collection happens by a bot. When you get calls, we put AI, which we call in terms of a voice assist, which can answer queries faster. AI, the age-old AI is Alexa. I keep saying that's the only person that listens to you these days because she does whatever you tell her. But it couldn't catch sentiment analysis of people when they are calling. When you're responding, you also need to get the element of sentiment, and hopefully Gen AI is moving in that direction.
Is it easier to convince and trust customers in a general insurance company with the help of chatbots or any other kind of technological tools?
The fact that general insurance is a high transaction industry, compared to life. I mean, in motor, our claims frequency is upwards of 25%. In health, our claims frequency is upwards of 10%, right? So you can imagine the kind of transaction load that comes on insurance companies, and it's an anniversary product. So now there are two parts. Let me break this question into two parts. As far as products like motor is concerned, it's very easy to use new age technology, and it's very transactional. You have a stencil in your phone, you go and click the photographs and the videos, and in 5 minutes you will get your decision. What is the premium? I want to insure your car or not? Go. When it comes to health insurance, it is still not as seamless as that. I still can't use technology end to end and pay health claims purely based on technology. So it's all about data. It's all about how strong is your pitch to the customer.
Ajay, since you are kind of digital born, not a digital migrant, you tell us, if you look into the future, what is the next big thing that is going to transform banking, technologically speaking?
I would like to believe that from a future perspective, next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, DPI is going to be very, very critical. And how banks leverage DPI, integrate with the DPIs is going to be very, 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 very crucial, right? So ULI, for example, which has been launched, I believe that, see, there are some banks who are very good on digital, but there are a lot of banks who are behind on digital. So the purpose of a system like ULI, which is touted to be the UPI of lending, is to bring all the players on the same platform, give them access to the same level of information, and then, of course, they have to build their own capabilities to leverage that. And that is really what something like a ULI will bring to the table. And I think, more banks which come onto that kind of platforms will really shape the way banking happens in the future.
Thank you very much, both the Anoops, Kamlesh, Ajay, and Garish.
CNBC-TV18 and NuSummit present the BFSI 2025 Vision Summit. CNBC-TV18 and NuSummit present the BFSI 2025 Vision Summit.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the BFSI sector takes bold strides into the future, it faces one of its most significant challenges that was also mentioned in the past panel, which is cybersecurity. So our next panel discussion is around that, securing tomorrow, cybersecurity as the backbone of BFSI trust. To discuss the critical role of cybersecurity in safeguarding the digital revolution in financial services, I would like to invite on stage Ritu Singh, Deputy Editor, CNBC-TV18.
Steve, let me start with you on, from your vantage point, what have you emerged as the most concerning trends when it comes to cybersecurity, the kind of, sophisticated phishing, ransomware attacks that are emerging, and what you're most concerned about today?
What is concerning from a ransomware perspective is, it's not necessarily you need to be a skilled attacker today. Given the rise of ransomware as a service and the understanding that is there between the attackers, where there's a profit sharing model, so even an unskilled attacker using a ransomware which is developed by somebody else can just go on a rampage, and that's what is happening, and that's the reason you've seen the significant increase that's there. That's number one. If you look at the trend of initially it was encrypting your data, restricting it to maybe data sets within the organization. Now it's gone way beyond. Now we're talking about double extortion, triple extortion, where they are encrypting your data, taking the data away, and then ensuring that your business is impacted. There is business interruption that happens. They have gone one step ahead when it comes to triple extortion. Now they are reaching out to your customers and partners and ensuring that that's impacted.
How do you embed cybersecurity from the get-go to protect the organization and the customers?
When you're an ecosystem where the problem is well understood, the solution is present, and the regulators are giving very clear mandates of how they will ensure that you need to be at that level, why do we have a problem? I think the self-discipline has to drastically move, and that's why if you see in the Western world, this problem is there, but sometimes it does not get as much attention as what we do. So I think it is extremely important for us to follow the process, get the implementation in place, listen to the regulators very carefully what they expect, and once you do that, I think we can be in a different place.
Well, Samir, give us a glimpse into what innovations, what technologies, what tools are emerging that have become essential for organizations to protect themselves and their data.
First and foremost is obviously how technologies are really advancing from the way they are being used for attacks and defense mechanisms. Also, one of the biggest challenges is that technology complexity of the controls themselves have gone up significantly. So any organization would have 40, 50 security controls in place, and they do different things, but they all working together is not an easy task. We are ahead of the curve. That is why business runs successfully. But yes, it is getting more and more difficult, more and more challenging. But I think we have the right talent, right leadership, and the right technologies to really stay ahead of the curve.
Girish, do you agree that the various stakeholders in the system have figured this out? You have to follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to be protected. Is that the case, or are there accidents that can happen even if you follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
So even if you follow steps, accidents can happen. But what it helps is to reduce the impact of that accident. And it actually helps you to recover in a quicker time from any accident which happens, right? Because even if you're walking on a street, you're on the footpath, you never know you get dashed by some car. Because some driver feels he has privilege of driving his car on the footpath as well. What is important from a cyber point of view is cyber should not be an afterthought. It has to be part of your culture. And I honestly feel that we need to change the role. We call ourselves as CISO, but we need to call ourselves as BISO now.
What does that stand for?
BISO is Business Information Security Officer. Because we need to align ourselves, because many a times what happens is we look at risk from our perspective, but what business is trying to do, are we enabling them to do their business in a secure manner? Are we having solutions which will align to my business goals and to my growth strategies? That is most important.
Rajesh, quick word. A lot of the solutions in the market today and what you all are doing is around the threats that we know of today. How do you future-proof yourself against something you don't even know exists today?
The basic problem that comes up if you analyze most of the breaches or incidents, it originates with some basic cyber hygiene lapse. If we emphasize on that, at least 70% probability you have actually knocked off, which may be the behavior users, ignorance, which may be a tool which you bought the best class tool, but you did not configure it right. You did not even challenge your own controls. You defined something 3 years back, and today also you're defending that. So the moment you at least set those things right, you are slowly, gradually coming to what would be the ideal security posture.
Well, on that note, Rajesh, Steve, and all the gentlemen here, Girish, Ramesh, and Samir, thank you very much for candidly sharing your thoughts, and thank you all for being a wonderful audience and listening in.
All right, Ritu, I will have to ask you to stay back for the next panel. And the next panel actually is taking forward the sentiment from the last panel, and we're going to be talking about future-ready BFSI, the AI advantage.
Let me ask you the buzzword of today. It's not AI, now we've moved to generative AI. But tell us, to what extent has the BFSI industry really adopted generative AI beyond what we heard maybe in the earlier panels about chatbots?
If I look at customer service, so that's something that comes to mind with generative AI. But rather than talking at a conversational interface level, let me take you backside. But think about, you go to a shop, you're online, you swipe your card and your card get declined. You swipe it the second time, it's declined, and it's frustrating. but there's something happening at the back end where the Gen AI can help you. So what we have done is we have built applications at the back end, which is smart authorization, so that your declines will go less. So this is where Gen AI is really helping at the back end.
Mayank, at Rupi, what is the extent of generative AI use you have? I know with AI you've built products, but how is it really helping you in making the customer journey better, in solving for some of the bottlenecks? And is it limited to AI and not so much generative AI?
The easy answer to that is AI is becoming more and more pervasive now. It's going more from experimental to actual production use cases. And I think we are focusing first on the consumer and improving consumer experience. The real value, and this is how we try and innovate and we try and compete, is automating the internal operations away as well through AI and through typical software automation. And I think consumer experience is not just the front end that the consumer sees, it is also the back end operations that can be automated away to make tasks faster and responses much faster, and which is what consumers value.
Kapil, what's been your experience at Motilal Oswal with the use of AI? I mean, how are trading strategies evolving? What sort of changes have you seen, and what are the areas where you'd want to see changes?
So one of the big area where we are implementing Gen AI and AI is creating a platform for alpha generation. Alpha generation is defined as, if we can generate better than benchmark in the market. So we are creating different products on alpha. That's what is our, more of the to go live strategy with more on Gen AI related use cases. One big area where we are implementing generative AI is for our advisors to serve our customers. So that's where, we are creating a system called Advisory Pro, where our advisors will have a tool which will have an insight related to all the customers based on what kind of, preference they would have. And then the feeds like Alpha Generator will provide them the right recommendation which should go to the customer.
Atish, let's talk about Cred, one of the fintechs here. Start by telling us how you're using AI to ensure that there is engagement and there's loyalty in the select customers that you service.
One of the key things that we need to understand is how what is important to the user. We want to pitch the right things at the right time, and understanding all those things from what type of transactions users are doing, what type of products the user want, and at what right time that is to give the user. Obviously, customer support being the key aspects of Gen AI, where you'd ideally want to understand, what are the customer problems, at what time, even before customer getting a understanding. A lot of time, let's say transaction fails, you get a notification 3 days later. How do you identify that preemptively, and then also notify the customer, understand his problem, and let him know that there's an issue going on and you don't have to worry about it.
Kaustubh, since you again have an overview of the industry, let me ask you about the kind of adoption, the best use cases of AI you've seen, and where are the areas of improvement where you think the industry is lagging behind in adoption and could do better?
When it comes to the BFSI sector, right, typically there are two types of use cases that we have seen. One is for the efficiency, productivity improvement, and the second one is the game-changing AI, as we call it as. And we were talking about the combination of the traditional predictive AI plus the generative AI. Think about it like a left brain that is typically used for any decisioning, and the right brain that is used for the creativity. Now, with the advancement of the agentic AI, right, pretty much the decisioning is something that AI is able to do.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts today. I hope the audience had a lot to take away. Thank you all very much.
CNBC-TV18 and NuSummit present the BFSI 2025 Vision Summit.